Hello. Hello everybody. I'll start playing the game in a couple of minutes, but yeah, I'll do Highway 17 and maybe Sandtraps, depending on how long it takes me to do Highway 17, because last time I did this I streamed Water Hazard and then Ravenholm, because when I was doing the previous one, I ended up going through the game a lot faster than I thought I would. Because everybody complains Water Hazard's too long, and I did it in under an hour. And out of interest, I actually looked up how fast people can speedrun Water Hazard, and there are people who have done it without like doing the exploiting speedruns in about 20 minutes, so clearly it's not too long a level. See ya. Yeah, I've played Stalker before and streamed Stalker, but I'm streaming Half-Life 2 now, so if you don't want to watch Half-Life 2, don't watch the stream. Hello. Right, yeah, I'll start it in about 1 more minute, so same to other people, I'm going to do Highway 17, and if I have time, Sandtraps, depending on how long it takes to do Highway 17. Because, yeah, last time when I did Water Hazard, I was saying to the people earlier, I did it a lot faster than I thought I would, and it might be the same thing with Highway 17. Right, cool, so let's start. If other people join, they can watch me playing it. I won't bother loading the save I made last time, actually. I'll just start from the very beginning again, because I didn't get very far into that one. Cool, Kieran, which type of Kevlar vest was it? Like a US one, or what? Oh, is it a British Army flak jacket? Yeah, the zombie part is Ravenholm, which was in the last stream I did. Yeah, the controls on the buggy aren't great. Everybody complains the water boat's bad as well, but the water boat, the airboat isn't actually too bad. Buggy is more, I think the problem is when you're using a keyboard, you tend to oversteer it if you leave your hand down on the turn too long. Zed Gaming, the only Greek gas mask I know of is the, I think it's called the Cobra mask, and it's another sort of version of the Draeger M65. It's not the, I think it's licensed, but it's not, it's kind of like an adapted one. It's similar to the Israeli M15, but I've not actually ever seen one for sale. That's kind of like one of the reasons to actually use the gravity gun. Might as well just keep spamming these grenades while I've got them. He's actually going to jump down now. Right. Well, it depends. If you've poisoned somebody with a nerve agent that's not properly made, that can have an effect on how it works. Because when they had the sarin attack, which wasn't really sarin, on the Tokyo Underground or subway in the 90s, that was done with basically really badly made sarin, which is why the thousands of people that became ill didn't die. Only about 12 people died or something. Because if that was proper sarin, the thousands who were ill would have been dead, but they were kind of just getting headaches and things like that because it wasn't properly formed. So it could be a misformed nerve agent, or it could be they just were in contact with very little amounts of it. Right. I'll get upstairs now. It's also completely optional, by the way, to do all these houses. You don't need to do them at all, but you might as well do them when you're playing the level. I think this one might be the one that has compound soldiers in it. Right, see you if you're off. Let's do the next house. Right, let's see what's in here, if there's anything interesting. Verdun probably wouldn't run very well if I tried to stream it, because I think I've been over this before in a couple of the streams, but if you're playing games that kind of actually need hardware, and then you're trying to stream it and use your processor and everything for streaming at the same time, they normally end up looking crap, or having lots of things, and I'm crap at the Verdun online and don't play it anyway. I only like playing the versus the bots mode.
Gordon Freeman! Hurry, get in the basement! We're expecting gunships at any moment.
I used to play a lot of Gmod, but I haven't played it in ages. I used to play the zombie survival mode quite a lot in it, and Trouble in Terrorist Town, which is made by one of the people who made Zombie Master, but I haven't played Gmod in ages.
This steerable rocket launcher is our best bet for taking down a gunship. Ah, hello. I'll be right with you. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. Using the laser guide, you can steer your rocket past the gunship's defenses and prevent it from shooting down your rocket. This will only anger it at first, but if you can survive long enough to make several direct hits, you'll be rewarded with a prize worthy of any mantelpiece. Now, who's going to be the lucky one to carry it into combat? Ah, yes. Gordon.
Right, let me read the chat while Cubbage is shouting about stuff. No, I'm not going to do a gas mask giveaway. I've been over this a lot of times, but I collect the masks because I like collecting them. And if you do giveaways, people watch your videos only for free stuff. They don't watch your videos because they actually enjoy the videos. As I said, Nathan, I like Trouble in Terrorist Town. I used to play it a lot, so... But the thing I don't like is it's kind of got a bit too convoluted, where they had to keep adding extra stuff with all the updates rather than keeping the simple game that it used to be.
Damn. Let me just send a warning to Lighthouse Point, and then I'll come right up and lend a hand. Go on. Teach that gunship a lesson it will never forget. Remember, use the launcher's laser guide to steer your rocket past the gunship's defenses.
No, I wouldn't play Fallout 4 because Fallout 4 is quite a crap game. Fallout 3 is also pretty crap. I quite like Point Lookout. New Vegas is good because it's actually like the old Fallouts, but Bethesda kind of has no idea what they're doing with the Fallout games. They bought the IP and then they just don't understand the kind of games they're meant to be. Now, how many rockets does it take to kill one of these things? I'm not a fan of Armor 3 herped up. I like Armor 2, but Armor 3, I don't know why I didn't like it. Because I know it's technically an improvement over Armor 2 in a lot of ways, I just never really got on with it. I kind of liked Armor 2 being a modern day shooter rather than kind of pseudo-futuristic one. I know you can port Armor 2 into Armor 3 and everything like that, but...
Well, that's that. I gather you've disposed of that gunship, Dr. Freeman. Your reputation, sir, is well deserved. I shall have someone open the gate for you immediately, so that you can
What's
drive
this
on.
Norman man done?
I understand that Dr. Vance is in great need. Use extreme caution when approaching the bridge. Radio silence from that outpost leads me to believe it has come under Combine control. Still, you're clearly the right man for the job. You'll make it through if anyone can. Farewell. And please tell Dr. Vance that Colonel Cubbage regrets not having been able to rescue him in person.
The Freeman must now hurry on. The Eli Vance is held in distress most dire. Is there reason for delay?
NLO to Lighthouse Point. NLO to Lighthouse Point. Come in. This is Colonel Cummings. Come in, please.
Scott GSRs normally cost between like £50 and £100.
NLO to Lighthouse Point. NLO to Lighthouse Point. Come in. This is Colonel Cummings. Come in, please.
If you've got a GP5 filter, don't breathe it. Yeah, the GSR is a good way of wasting your money. I mean, I kind of don't mind having one myself, even though it's an awful mask, because, you know, like, I collect masks, but it is an awful mask. We can't get around that. And what was interesting, I did see on the news today, well, not real mainstream news, but looking at kind of stock market stuff, is that Avon has been paid about £300 million, I think it was, by the British government now, because they've realised the GSRs are useless, and now they need a replacement mask for the GSR, because where we've had this, like, nerve gas scare, and they were also doing their, they do their kind of chemical warfare training exercises around this time of year, most of the time. They've sort of, you know, actually realised now that because the GSR is such a bad mask, that, aren't you meant to open the gate, or do I have to, oh, there we go. They actually need a mask that works, because basically if soldiers have to rely on GSRs, they're going to die because of how many GSRs they bought in bad condition. And because Scott Scott Rubber doesn't really exist as a company anymore, it's not like they can actually say to Scott, fix the mask so we ordered off of you. So, yeah, they've now reached the sort of, you know, logical conclusion of what happens when you buy something really cheap and crap. That they've now gone sort of pleading back to Avon with loads of money, saying make us a mask that works, or service the GSRs. If you're familiar with what happened with the L85A1 when that was first put into service, it's basically the exact same thing that's happened but with a gas mask. Shotgun here, actually, it's probably going to be a better choice. What you're going to have to do then, though, this is what I'm going to have to do, is you're probably going to have to get a Avon, either Avon M50 if that's what they're going to replace the GSR with, or the Avon upgraded GSRs, or whatever the hell they actually do with it. Yes, £15 is very good for an S10 if you got a working S10 for £15 without rips in it or anything like that. Oops, he's got a block now. There's his shout out. I think the animations in this, though, are meant to be quite stylized rather than all that serious. Oh, yeah, that's a nice shot. But I've been getting really annoyed about this from the other week. I think I was speaking to somebody people in the stream about it the other day, or whenever it was I last did a stream. But apparently it's really trendy to hate Half-Life 2 now. So there's loads and loads of people online that say Half-Life 2 is a really bad game. The enemy AI is really bad. The physics are terrible. The graphics look awful. What an awful game! This is one of the worst games ever made. And I kind of think, really. It's sort of, you know, one of those stupidly, I did do the Vortigern one in the tunnel, like the person asked me to in the other stream. But, yeah, the funny thing is the Combine Soldier AI in this game is actually one of the most impressive AIs I've ever seen in a game. And I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm a Half-Life 2 fanboy. I mean, it actually is really impressive how the AI works in this game. I mean, the Marines are good in Half-Life 1 as well. And, like, Fear's meant to have really good AI. I'll have to play through Fear at some point, because I've never actually properly played through it. But, yeah, so, sorry if I'm missing important messages in the chat, so it's a bit hard to check the chat while I'm playing this. I'll just have a quick look now. I was running this, so I hope we don't get shot. Well, you can't get a GP5 with 40mm NATO filters because they don't fit 40mm NATO filters. Some sellers might sell them with 40mm NATO filters, but there's no point in doing that. Get one with an FP5 filter, because FP5 filters actually work and fit the mask and are safe. Yeah, I have heard people actually legitimately claiming when you say they forget this game is old. One of the funny sort of stupid fallacious arguments I see people make where they try and say Half-Life 2 is bad is people say Half-Life 2 is obviously good because of how many games copied elements from Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1. And then people proceed to say, talk about games that came out later than Half-Life 2. I've got that stuck on a body, have I? Oh, there's a wheelie bin under the car. But yeah, they'll proceed to talk about games that came later than Half-Life 2, copied gameplay elements from Half-Life 2, and then said, no, Half-Life 2 ripped off this game that somehow, you know, came out before it. Oh, I'm sort of straddled up there. I mean, it's probably easier to actually reverse that. But I think I was going to just moan then about something other people say about Half-Life 2 being bad, but yeah, I've actually seen people trying to argue Half-Life 2 would be a much better game with iron sights, and you have to aim with iron sights in a game like Half-Life 2, despite the fact it's not trying to be a super realistic shooter, because you're like, alien headcrab zombies. So that's one of the arguments I see a lot. And there's a few other ones like that as well, but it just, if you want to get angry, just read people who try and, you know, make up reasons why this game is awful. I mean, it actually will start to hurt your brain for some of the reasons people manage to try and come up with for this game being bad. My most hated gas mask is probably just the Scott GSR, just because of how bad it is and that, you know, people's lives are being put at risk using it. And, you know, I was moaning about that earlier, that now the British government's finally decided that they should have picked the Avon M50 that everybody else knew when they went with the Scott GSR, and now they've just paid Avon a load of money and said, oh yeah, now that there's actually problems with like nerve gas and our soldiers can't use the mask we're meant to be issuing to the entire army, can you either retrofit these masks and make them good or sell us a new mask? If you're selling an S10 that's in good condition, you should sell it for like 30 quid. I mean, it depends if you've got a satchel with it and the original filters and anything else that's interesting, but... yeah, I mean, I don't watch the news. I've said about this quite a few times. I don't watch the news because a lot of it is, you know, just made up propaganda, or it's got horrible spins on it put by whatever the news channel's agenda is. But yeah, there was a thing where supposedly a Russian spy was poisoned using some sort of nerve agent, and his daughter or something somewhere. I think it was Salisbury, and apparently one of the policemen that responded as well was in hospitalised with nerve gas poisoning. Whether or not the Russians actually did it, no idea. Because, you know, as I said, the Russians are blamed for everything now, regardless of what it is. I suppose if you lose your car keys, the Russian hackers probably did it, but... yeah, but yeah, there was a nerve gas incident basically in the UK, and they were recently doing their annual sort of chemical warfare trials as well, and you can see in that the soldiers are muzzle sweeping each other constantly and not being able to look down the SA-80 sights properly because they've got GSRs on, which you can't look down sights properly with, and now all of a sudden the MOD's actually gone, Avon, please fix our problem. Oh, thank you very much, Grellock. So, how do you mean for gas mask mechanics for an 1800s board game? Like, what do you mean, what would be interesting mechanics? Because, I mean, the first proper masks weren't around till World War I. I'll check the chat on what you said in just a second, once I've killed these soldiers. And here come their reinforcements. But, yeah, one of the interesting things in Half-Life 2 is if you watch the, soldier AI, is how they... Look, see, like, that one's just trying to silently flank me from behind. Is how they actually do work in squads, and they'll try and cover different entrances to buildings and things like that. And it's not entirely scripted, because you can kind of make a save game and do the same thing, and they'll sometimes do different things, or you can spawn them in Gmod, and if the map's got proper path nodes, the soldiers will actually work as a unit trying to flank you. Well, Grellock, if you were trying to think of, like, good mechanics for a gas mask, I suppose you could have, some sort of diving suit, air pump apparatus, I imagine, would have kind of existed at some point in the 1800s, because I know they've had those deep-sea pressure suits for absolutely ages. And obviously there was industrial gases around at the time which were horribly toxic, and there was obviously like loads of smog in London and things like that during the 1800s and things like that, but... If there's alternative history, you can easily have masks made. I suppose aesthetically you'd probably want them to look like World War I or World War II masks, because I think they look kind of a lot more industrial looking and things like that. Maybe as well have, I was going to say, something a bit like, I was saying with the deep sea diving suits, have something that looks quite mechanical and sort of bulky, I guess. So I'm trying to drive while looking at my phone, which is never a good idea. I don't do that in real life, but I'm doing it in this game with a car that doesn't even handle as well as a real car. I think it's where the crossbow is, isn't it? I assume you're joking when you say Scott is better, because Scott doesn't even exist as a company anymore, because they went bust, because nobody wanted their masks. The Scott GSR was only purchased by Britain because it was basically, oh look, we can get a mask super cheap. This is the guy you meant to nail to the sign, and now all of a sudden it's, oh, the Scott GSR doesn't work, how do we fix it? Yeah, sorry, yeah, I was hoping you were joking, but you can never tell with, obviously, chat, because you can't read sarcasm or hear the sarcastic tone of it. But I have heard people saying, the Scott GSR, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, it looks cool, so therefore it's a good mask. I mean, I'm really glad that safety equipment is made to look cool as an actually functioning feature, and not how well it would protect you from anything. Because apparently, you know, that's the logic a lot of people have. I played Risk. I like Monopoly. I really like Monopoly as a board game. I was playing Board Game Simulator with a few people quite recently. But I don't play all that many board games because you actually need people who want to sit down and play a board game, which a lot of people don't. I think there's one creeping around. There it is. Yeah, well, if you're doing some sort of mechanic with a gas mask, and yeah, I suppose you could have it turn-based. Could you do something with dice rolls as well, with how quickly is a filter going to wear down? Or does the mask protect you? I mean, without knowing much about the game, it's quite hard to actually say what you should implement and what, because I have no idea what you're going for. The SGE 403 is the mask everybody seems to be obsessed with shilling, because there's a video where some guy says it's the best gas mask ever, every other gas mask is junk, buy my mask. Whether or not it's actually a good mask on its own merits, I don't know, but I know it's one of those masks that people are kind of conned into buying. Right, anyway, I'm meant to be knocking the APC off the cliff, aren't I, to actually... See, if this was a modern game, and I think this is pointed out in the Worth a Buy review for Half-Life 2, there'd be a giant flashing arrow pointing at these blocks telling you to remove them, and there'd be some guy going, hey, if only we could get this APC with the power cable in it to roll off a cliff, how would we do that? That's not actually true, because the GSR has had so many problems with actual masks being delivered to the British Army that had parts that were missing from them, so the mask didn't even function, because that was Scott's quality control near the end. So an actual M17 with cheek filters in, as much as I hate cheek filter masks, M17s at least had quite good quality control, whereas a lot of the Scott GSRs, you might literally get a broken mask delivered and told there's your mask. I'll just try and get into that secret area then. Right, can I jump on the buggy, or is the buggy going to be too slippery to get over? I mean, I'm sure I can grab a box from somewhere, but... There we go. Oh, apparently I haven't found this location before. 32 of 45. Yeah, I do have a lot of masks. You see, part of the problem is I don't really have all that many filters, but I do have enough filters. So I think some of you were speaking to me the other day with, like, would I want more filters? And the reason is no, because they take up space and they expire, so I don't want a massive stockpile of filters that then all go out of date. So I've got a few in-date filters that are sealed, that are like, you know, full AVEX CBRN filters. And then I've got other filters that are expired but wrapped up quite well, so I use them for like nuisance gas stuff, and then I've got lots of expired filters. I've got lots of filters filled with asbestos as well that I don't really do anything with. Oh, this is the really fun bit, isn't it, with the bridge? Oh, one of the arguments I saw somebody make against Half-Life 2 was if you played a game without the sound and music on and listened to other music while you played a game loses its atmosphere, therefore the game is bad. I actually just quite like the open L knives, to be honest. I wasn't expecting that though to rush out and do that because guys are quite dangerous, because now I've lost half my health. The the knife I really like at the moment, I'll just flick it open and check the name. It's like a Chinese one. If I could find one made by another company, sort of a very similar quality to this, it'd be nice. It's called the Enlan ELO1, which is like a 4-inch something lock knife, which is just quite well made. I really like my Fairbairn Sykes reproduction as well. But yeah, for practicality, I just like open L's. I mean, I like the Mora I got as well recently, but I got an open L number 7 the other day, because you can't really get enough open L's, and I just love open L's. Yeah, that's one of the things I actually liked when I got my open L number 7 the other day. It was literally razor sharp. The amount of knives you buy that you need to sharpen because the factory couldn't be bothered to do a good job of it is quite astounding. But yeah, open L's actually tend to always come sharp, and they're really cheap for what they are. So if you lose it or break it, it's not really the end of the world. Gradlock, I do have a Patreon. If you want to contact me, the Patreon's actually a good way to do it, because I'll tend to check it more often. In all my regular video descriptions, but not when I'm streaming, there's a link to my Patreon. You only have to support it for $1 a month as well to be able to join a Discord server, and a Discord server is a good place to talk to people about gas masks and stuff as well. I basically just have it as $1 a month, because I thought if I had, you know, a load of subscribers that gave me $1 a month, then that would be fine. So you can pledge more than that if you really wanted to. Some people do give me quite a bit on it, but $1 a month is all I ask for the Patreon, and then I'm very grateful to people that do donate $1 a month. Hi, Mike. Yeah, I do like chocolate. I obviously like milk chocolate the most, but I have quite a thing for white chocolate as well. I'm not a massive fan of dark chocolate unless it's with, like, mint, like After Eights. This is a bit of the zombie upstairs. I think the zombie does actually spawn. It's not waiting in the room, because I swear every time I just save. I swear every time you come in here, the zombie's always in the opposite area. Because I'll get the shotgun ready. But there's the which way is it going to spawn? There it's it. Oh, it didn't spawn there. Oh no. I mean, my health comes back from that, but it's a bit irritating. Because obviously you don't want to get hit again, but... the SHMS, because my main issue with the PMG is because it takes the filter on its side, and it's made from kind of a flexible rubber, the filter pulls the side of the mask down quite a lot. Whereas the SHMS has the metal filter assembly at the bottom. So obviously I think that's a much better way of doing it, because it's... Generally I do like side-loading filters, but you need kind of a firm bit of plastic there or something, or a metal bit, so it doesn't pull the mask to the side. Yeah, I think with games, the kind of golden age of games was for the most part like early 2000s to maybe late 2000s. I mean, there's obviously some really good games before that as well, but there's none of this, you know, like day one DLC in these games, microtransaction, loot crates, nothing like that. Games as well, when games like this came out, they were made by people who are kind of passionate about making games, not how can we, you know, get as much money from the game as possible. Alright, cool, Mike. I'll see if it works on this one. I've got it turned on, but it's not worked on all the videos it was meant to, so maybe it's because it's a new feature, it's not quite working yet. How much is 100 New Zealand dollars worth in pounds roughly, or American dollars? Because then I'll be able to know, but because I know Australian dollars aren't worth as much as American dollars, for example. I don't think there's even much I'm looking forward to this year. I think Oddworld Soulstorm's meant to come out, which is this year, which is kind of like a remake of Abe's Exodus. My tea's going cold. Just had the grim realisation that I've got a cup of tea there, and it's getting nearly the lukewarm stage where tea is absolutely disgusting, so I'm going to need to gulp that down really quickly. Oh, I thought that might kill him in one hit, but... Speaking of Siege, they put a zombie survival mode in Siege, didn't they, recently? I've not actually looked to check it out yet, but... To be fair, I find coffee I can kind of manage when it's lukewarm, but tea really disgusts me when it's lukewarm, I don't know why. But yeah, this is... Because Half-Life 2 is meant to work with the Oculus Rift, if I can be bothered to set up, I might try this bit at some point with the Rift, because I imagine this would be really good for giving you kind of a fear of heights, this bit with the Rift. But, I mean, this bit's kind of amazing with... Ooh, look, it's shaking, it's shaking. I've got a few friends that play the zombies type, not zombies, play Siege, but if I end up doing a stream and they're in it, I need to be really careful, because I imagine they might get me banned for political correctness reasons when they say stuff like I normally say if I'm not watching what I say. Oh yeah, Mike, I just saw your comment on the video where you replied to it. So yeah, that's the actual first thing then, is it, that's managed to get through that Kevlar vest? Well, not Kevlar, the stab panel. The broadhead. Come on, fall off. Oh, there he goes. I don't even have a fear of heights, but this does kind of make your legs go a bit. So I really do need to try this with the Oculus Rift, because I imagine this would be kind of amazing with the Rift. Whoop. If you want really good hot chocolate, try actually getting hot milk and then melting real chocolate into it, rather than using hot chocolate powder. That's really nice. When I was in Norway, they had a place that's apparently meant to be like really famous where they did the hot chocolate, and I had one there where they kind of did that, which is really nice. But basically all it was is they kind of had like the Cadbury's buttons kind of things, and it was just like they put the Cadbury's buttons into hot milk to melt them. See, this is what I'm saying about the AI. You don't know how they're going to really flank you. And even if you load them into different maps. See, now I'm trying to attack that one moves up. Even if you put them in non-official Half-Life 2 maps, the AI is still really intelligent for the most part. So it's not like, you know, they're really scripted here, where it's like, go here and then they do that. Go here, they do that. I haven't, as I said, I haven't played Trouble in Terrorist Town in ages. I wasn't expecting them there. I mean, part of the problem of getting another deactivated weapon now is that they've changed the laws so much that I think literally everything's welded shut on them, isn't it? And it doesn't move, and now they cost even more because they have to put them through more I wasn't expecting that either. I think they're apparently saying they're going to replace the L85A2 if they eventually ever do it with, it's like, I think they said like the HK416, didn't they, at one point? It's going to be basically an AR-15 type rifle. I think they bought a load more M4s as well, but whether or not they actually, you know, do any of this, or then they decide that there's another really bad gun they can buy for cheap, so they'll do that. I don't know, but I mean, a lot of the problems of the L85 have kind of been worked out of it now with the A2. Because this seems to be like the exact same thing as I was saying that's happening with the GSR, where the GSR was a really bad choice to adopt. It's horribly broken, so now they're paying somebody else to basically try and fix the GSR or replace it. Does it have much else with it other than the aluminium front? But yeah, because I think Forgotten Weapons said they were going to do an A3, maybe, but that was kind of still debatable whether they were doing it or not. Yeah, I'm going to do this definitely in the FAQ video because I get asked every time. I've done airsoft before. I have quite a decent airsoft rifle now, but the issue is trying to arrange with friends where we all want to go on a day and do airsoft. So as a result, I barely go airsofting because nobody ever agrees on a date to go. Cool, try and check that video out if I remember. Mike, if you're still in the stream, you said on your video, didn't you, the other day that you replayed Bioshock 1 recently, because I think I replied to the video that that's really weird, because I replayed Bioshock 1 recently, or you bought Bioshock 1 recently. I can hear a combine moving about somewhere, so I'm just being careful. It sounds like somebody's shuffling about. Yeah, because I'm saying that's really weird, because, yeah, it was like only a month or two ago I replayed Bioshock 1 and 2, but I don't really think I can be motivated to play through Infinite again. I'm actually downloading it at the moment, so I think I'm going to, because I've got it on Steam, but I remember really hating Infinite, because they kind of dumbed everything down. Have you got the original Deus Ex Serious Power? Because that's, I've replayed the original Deus Ex loads of times, which is really amazing. Human Revolution was good though. I didn't like the one they did after Human Revolution. Was it Mankind Divided? Because that just kind of dumbed the game down a bit too much. No, I don't own any real guns. The original Deus Ex is really good if you can get over the clunkiness. The controls are quite clunky. It's like System Shock 2. They're clunky. You have to understand how the mechanics work, because you can't shoot the guns really accurately until you, I need to get the ammo crate halfway along, don't I, to shoot the chopper. It's like one of those games where you have to put skill points into your shooting skill to be able to aim well. So, it's kind of a bit... Ooh, this is the bit that really gets me. You have to, basically... put points into a skill to be able to be good at it, so you can't aim a gun really quickly well. So I really like Deus Ex, but you kind of have to understand the mechanics, because lots of people get put off because they don't put points into like pistols or whatever. They try and shoot a pistol and they don't think the controls are very responsive or whatever else, sort of like that. If that makes sense. I heard the PS2 version's like a really interesting port. I've never played it. I like they did a CGI version of the first cutscene in it, for the opening, but I heard it's like one of those really weird ports where they just about got the game to run on the PS2, but you know, it feels a really weird kind of experience. Oh, that sucks. I hope you've got like the leg all cast up and everything. I'm just going to check the comments quickly while there's nothing shooting at me. Real guns are not illegal in England as long as you get the right licenses for them and everything. Grellock says, please don't read this comment. Whoops, too late. What I've been really enjoying using at the moment is I bought some infrared, like a night vision monocular. I think I have told a few people. I've not done the videos for it. I think are going to be like Sunday and Monday next week, or this week. But yeah, I've been really enjoying using that. I basically go into some woods near me, basically stand in the hedgerow when it's pretty much dark, turn the infrared on, and use the binocular and like watch the deer and everything else that are out there. So I've got a review video coming up for that. Like, because it's quite a cheap one, it's quite rough around the edges, but it's great. Because I'm not actually using it for shooting or anything, I'm just using it for the fun of actually, you know, being able to see things in almost pitch blackness. I don't do archery properly. I've done it before, like with other people in like sports hall type things. I've got like obviously bows. Let me just try and not die here. I'll continue speaking about that when I'm not trying to preoccupied about, you know, not instantly dying. Those shotgun guys really mess you up. What I might do, if you're interested in if M10 hoses fit on the other masks, I might do a video where I'll try it on all my cheek filter masks if you're interested and see if it fits on any of them. I went to Hadrian's Wall a couple of years ago, actually. It's quite nice that at Hadrian's Wall you're actually allowed to stand on it, rather than it being one of those they erect like a massive fence around the wall and then say don't touch it. I mean, I know it's kind of a ruin anyway, but still. You know, compared to how they do a lot of those sort of exit, you know, type things. The MG34, sorry, MG34 is a classic, so I'd say MG34. But yeah, when whoever was asking me about the archery, I should have done it on the less steep bit. It's basically, for me, it's like, it's one of those things where I actually quite enjoy doing it in the garden. I ought to get into it more, but I was really enjoying plinking with the air rifle the other day, actually. So I haven't done that in ages. Right, I've only been doing the stream for about 50 minutes, and I'm right at the end of this level now, so what I'm going to do is carry on for the next bit, if everybody wants to watch some more. Like, can I play chicken with a train? Oh yeah, I did it quite easily, but I knew the train was coming, so... When I was in Scotland, I went to, what's the name of the castle? It's the one where they have the legend that the devil plays cards in one of the towers, like the ward-off room. Glamis, but I think they don't pronounce it like that. Glams Castle, how they pronounce it? That's like a really nice one with a really good grounds. Out of interest, does it tell you how many people are watching the stream at the moment? Because I can't really very easily see that on my phone. Alright, cool, thanks. 30's not too bad. As I was saying, I think there's only like 11 people watching the stream the other day, but I quite enjoy doing them anyway, because it's quite nice to just chat and play a game, although so I'm not very good at answering questions on this stuff, to keep checking my phone, going back to the game, checking my phone, back to the game. But again, it's like people complaining, oh no, Highway 17's too long a level, and I did it in under an hour when I'm not concentrating properly because I'm speaking with people in the chat, so... I think maybe it's just because people are so used to modern games being like 4 hours long and getting ripped off, you know, no value for money with modern games, that they complain when a game's got a decent amount of length to it that it's too long. I mean, I really like Half-Life 2, don't get me wrong, but I think it's not a perfect game either. Because I kind of don't like, you know, when people get super fanboy about one game because they're like, you know, then there's no room for improvement. Because what I find with Half-Life 2 is I think once you get to, like, the Anti-Citizen one, is it Follow Freeman level after that? Where it comes too much of just, you know, like, respawning enemies, shooting, respawning enemies, shooting, killed Strider. That's where I find the game gets a bit boring for me. I mean, I still like it, but... I still say this is easily in my top 5 games. For anybody who likes the Deus Ex games, if you've got a PC, get Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines and try playing that. You might need the unofficial patch, because it's quite a buggy game, but that is one of the best RPGs you'll ever play. Right, I shouldn't be trying to look at the chat while I'm got fast zombies there. No, I've never played DayZ. PC Barber, I was saying, I bought, an IR spotter kind of scope, that's got a video and photo function on it. And, I've done some stuff with that, but the videos aren't live yet. The first video you'll see is a bit crap because I mostly took still photos and I didn't realise that the photo function's not that great. But then with videos it's quite good because it's one of those things where if you're using it on a tripod it'd be really nice and clear. But, you know, it's not got much shake kind of, you know, anti-shake, stabiliser type stuff on it. So videos end up looking better because, you know, you can tell what you're looking at even though it's a bit shaky. So there'll be a video up, I think it's Monday I've got it scheduled for at the moment, where you'll be able to see, Tuesday, I can't remember what day it is, it'll be some point, you know, early next week. And, like, there's deer in it, there's rabbits, there's a person who didn't know I was there. It's quite good, playing around with that. My favourite Combine unit's the Metro Cops, because they're the ones with, like, the coolest mask on. If you're looking for the Gauntlet Riot Gloves, try searching for Public Order Gloves. That's the double-think name they give them. Because they don't like calling them anti-riot gloves, they call them Public Order Gloves. Yeah, the night vision video, as I was saying, I've filmed it, it's not up yet, it'll be up, like, very early next week. So, it's not like military grade, what do they call it, like, what's the name of it? It's not Type 1, is it? Generation 1, Generation 2, Generation 3 night vision. It's infrared, but the device is actually really good at amplifying light that's there anyway, so a lot of the time you don't even need to flick the infrared on if it's not quite pitch black, and you can see much, you know, much better than your eyes. Yep, Public Order. What did you say is £18, sorry? I missed the other bit. Probably Belarus, because in Venezuela I wouldn't have anything to eat, would I? I think the latest thing I heard from Venezuela is they're telling people to eat rabbits only because that's a good source of food, not realising that people then get rabbit starvation. But I guess, you know, communists don't really understand people having food, do they? Yeah, like I said, the thing I have is not any of the proper military generation ones, because it's just like an infrared monocular, but it does amplify light as well as being an infrared monocular. But it's obviously in black and white, so it's not, I assume it's mostly shortwave. I think they call it infrared, which is the one that doesn't really show thermal sources. It, you know, you use the infrared lamp on it to throw out an infrared beam. So it's like the old, you know, early Cold War infrareds they put on tanks and things like that. Oh, maybe I'll chuck him out the roof. There you go. Yeah, if you get a mask, wash it, and put a new filter on, it'll be fine. I mean, I'd prefer we had laws like in America where you have, you know, the right to have a firearm, but the thing is, I think the laws in this country are good enough in the sense that it stops a lot of dodgy people from using guns, because you have to obviously be enthusiastic enough to get into it to use them. I mean, obviously, I know that there's obviously crimes committed with black market firearms, because, you know, doing prohibition against anything isn't going to fix it. But I don't think there's any, you know, rush for them to need to change the gun laws in this country. Like I said, I'd much rather live in America and have American-style gun laws where I could get, you know, a firearm without having to justify why I need it or anything like that, and be able to carry something like a pistol for self-defense. But I think the laws in this country are kind of fine as they are. I think it was in one of Weapons Collector videos where he kind of went over the same point, and he was sort of saying that, you know, the thing is that you, not in this country at the moment, you're not going to easily get anybody who's going to jump through all the hoops to get a legal firearm and then do stupid things with it. Because, I mean, at the moment they keep talking more about restricting air rifles, and I really don't see why they need to. I think they should just give harsher penalties to people who do really stupid things with guns, you know, rather than actually making the laws harder to get them in the first place. I think they should punish people more who, you know, horribly break rules and things like that, laws. Yeah, as I said, I'm aware there's lots of crime with firearms anyway, but what I'm saying is, I think a lot of the things would be worse if you just made it really easy for people to get firearms, especially when it's not kind of a gun culture. Like I say, I don't think the laws here are perfect by any means, and obviously, like I said, I know there's lots of black market firearms, and I like the US for the Second Amendment, but I don't think adopting the US-style Second Amendment in the UK, like overnight, would be a good idea, if that makes sense. Bensky, that would be really great if you wanted to do that, but I don't have a PO box. I mean, I might look into setting one up, because the C4 is kind of my most desired mask ever. Because people have told me it's the greatest mask ever made, but I don't currently have a PO box. I'm afraid there's no way you can actually currently send it. I mean, the thing that really makes me cringe is when the people in America say, get rid of assault rifles, and then they say, you know, the deadly assault rifle, the assault rifle 15, which always makes me laugh, because, you know, they don't know it's armor-light rifle for the AR-15. Yeah, I mean, the S6 filter, the NBC one, has, I guess, what's either a P2 or P3 particulate filter at the front. The only thing to bear in mind is some of those filters are quite old. I don't know if any of the S6 filters actually contained asbestos. Obviously the later ones definitely didn't, but just bear in mind, obviously, as filters get old, it's not a great idea to use them. Mike, if you're still in, I don't know if you left or not, any idea when you're next doing your live stream? Because I really enjoy watching yours, so I'll try and make sure I'm around to watch it, if you have any idea when you're next doing one. Oh, I need to get some car batteries here. Yeah, the CT12 is a lot rarer than the FM12 as well. You might find it a lot easier to get an FM12. Because CT12s are basically just made for kind of like counter-terrorism and like, you know, some armed police kind of uses for the most part. Whereas, you know, FM12s are one that's kind of just like the successor to the S10 that a lot of countries have bought. Alright, cool. If I'm around, I'll definitely try and watch that because I really enjoy your live streams. But yeah, I think I said on the comments on your video the other day that if you see it cheap enough, I definitely recommend you pick up Demon Souls for your PS3, because I still think that's the best one of the Souls games. I mean, I'm replaying Dark Souls 3 back for again at the moment, but I still think Demon Souls is the best one. I don't fear the Red Menace in the sense that there's not really many communist countries left anymore, but I do fear really stupid people who think communism was great and that we should adopt totalitarian systems in Western countries. Yeah, you can use an S10 for tear gas protection. The S10 is, you know, like suitable for any kind of chemical threat. So as long as you have the appropriate filter on it, you can use it absolutely fine for, I need one more battery. I think there's one in the car, isn't there? I mean, I think a lot more people might watch them if you do them in the evening, just because I think people won't be at work and stuff like that. But obviously, I suppose it's when's most convenient for you to do it, because like with my live streams, I don't have a particular time I do them. I just do them when I feel like, you know, people might watch. But I've noticed that doing them later, more people do watch than earlier. I have no idea why people think communism is good. But, you know, there are people who, you know, can't actually look at the history of what happened in, like, the Soviet Union and Communist China and Cambodia and, you know, lots of the Central and Eastern European countries where people were, you know, murdered by the millions under communism, and they still think, oh, if we just try it again, it'll work fine. See, nobody in their right mind says we should try Nazism again, but for some reason it's okay to say it about communism, so... Yeah, it's good as a concept, but it will never work, and trying it will just lead to lots and lots of misery. I mean, yeah, the Nazis were socialists. That's what it actually meant, National Socialism. It was NSDAP, National Socialist German Workers' Party. But again, lots of these political kind of, like, a lot of it isn't really even left and right wing. It's like if you try and put political parties on a chart, they're not even like that straightforward. It's like fascism, everybody says is really right wing, but Benito Mussolini was originally a socialist, and he was just kind of like an anti-communist socialist. So a lot of the ideas of fascism are kind of like a weird combination of free market capitalism with like socialist elements. I don't think small-scale socialism is necessarily bad, because I think most people in the UK like the NHS and don't mind paying for it, you know, their taxes. I think the issue is, you know, when you start deciding that the state should have more and more of a monopoly on force and power, and you need to pay more and more taxes towards stuff that's actually really questionable.
Get your car in the garage.
Get your car in the garage.
Oh yeah, I need to put the car in the garage. Call that a garage.
Get your car in the garage.
But yeah, like I was saying about Demon Souls, Demon Souls I really like, because I think because it was the first of the Souls games from Software, had a lot of their original ideas for it. Whereas the thing a lot of people don't know about Dark Souls is originally that was going to be Demon Souls 2, but Sony wouldn't give them the rights because it was like half owned by them, half owned by From Software. So when they ended up making the Dark Souls games, it was basically, can we make a sequel to Demon Souls that's far enough removed that people don't, you know, like, we don't get sued for it? Kieran, I have no idea when my next stream will be. I'll hopefully try and do one at the weekend at some point, because I know people like to do the Q&A kind of streams at that point, but at the moment I don't really know when I'll do my next live stream. I mean, I don't know absolutely loads about the Battle of Britain. I mean, obviously, I know that it was between the Luftwaffe and the RAF. I've seen, like, obviously the Battle of Britain film and quite a few other films about it and stuff like that. Hurricanes and Spitfires versus Messerschmitts. And obviously, all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, like, you know, all the details about any of the particular battles. I'm kind of not very good with history if you want to ask me lots of details about a particular thing. I'm saying I kind of done a lot of reading on nerve agents and stuff like that, but it's like if you ask me like a particular battle, like how many people died at Stalingrad and all stuff like that, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Yeah, I was born 93, that's why there's a 93 in my username. Alright, Bensky, I'm glad you enjoyed the videos. What I actually quite like the shotgun in Half-Life 2, which I only noticed replaying recently, is the shotgun actually has a really tight spread. You know, unlike most games where the shotgun goes 10 yards and then it doesn't work. You can see there that you can actually hit things with the shotgun quite far away. Geiger counters really vary in price. It depends what you're looking for, and how accurate you want it to be and everything else. Like, I know B-Store, who I've bought lots of things from, who sends me all that stuff, like, from communist Poland and, like, modern Polish stuff. He sells some Geiger counters, and I'm pretty sure I bought them from him before. I think for, like, 60 quid you can buy the old Soviet one that ticks, or, like, the Polish version of the Soviet one. You can get like SOX Geiger counters, which are pretty good, like the combined dosimeter Geiger counters, the modern digital ones, for like between 100 and 200 pounds. It really depends on what you want to get. The really cool Geiger counters, those American civil defense ones from like the 50s. But sadly you can't really find them in the UK. But if you're in America, I definitely recommend getting one of those with the speaker that you can get for it as well, so it ticks really loud. Yeah, the big yellow ones are the American civil defense ones. I have no idea because I'm not in America. Like I said, in the UK they're stupidly expensive. They ever turn up like well over 100 to 200 pounds. I need to get inside the lighthouse there. But yeah, so if you're in the US, look on US eBay and see how much they are for these. I think they're called CDC, aren't they? The civil defense ones, Geigers. See how much they cost. But saying, don't really ask me how much stuff is all across the globe because I can't tell you that.
Here, have a med
Give me a medkit.
Let me get out of your way.
Yeah, I was like saying, the Soviet ones and the Communist Poland ones, Warsaw Pact ones, you can generally get quite cheap. But yeah, they're really clunky and kind of awkward to use. If you're getting a Geiger counter as well, preferably you want one that can detect alpha radiation, because a lot of them can only do gamma and beta. With the, like, you know, like the probe ones, you need one that has the pancake probe to check for alpha. As far as I'm aware, if you went on holiday to the US, and you bought a mask and surplus store and you put it in your luggage, that's not against the law. The law is if you try and post it out as like an export sale, That's where the law comes in, but I'm not an expert on it. I just know that annoyingly in the UK you can't order masks legally from America. Right, let's save and try and take down this chopper. If you've got £200 to spend on a mask, are you able to see if you can find an Avon M50 or an Avon C50 for that price? Because as far as I'm aware, that's the kind of current top tier mask that you can get. But like I say, I wouldn't really spend that much on a mask myself. Otherwise, like try and get an FM12 or a CT12 and a load of filters. My personal favourite mask is the CT12, Avon CT12. I like the FM12 as well, but the CT12 is just like a lighter weight version of it where they took the drinking tube out. What's weird, the video's not up on it yet, but the Polish MP4 prototype mask, the MP4B that B-Store sent me, where the Poles put a drinking tube into the MP4 cheek filter mask. Weirdly, it's the best drinking tube I've ever seen on a mask, and sadly nobody's replicated it since. The drinking tube screws onto the mask and screws onto the canteen, so it's not going to fall off either end. You just push the bottom of the drinking tube where it connects on the mask to get it to go into your mouth, so it's not got a stupid lever system that gets caught on anything. And it just works. And it's kind of really weird when, you know, you get stuff like that Poland kind of improvised a system together, you know, like that worked fine, whereas lots of companies are massive research and development budgets for military stuff can't ever get it to work. Riot helmets and visors really depend on what you want to get. Make sure you get a proper one and not one of those like made for airsoft kind of things. In the UK, for like 30 to 50 quid, you can get the like second-hand either police ones or private security, like money carrier ones. I've got a money carrier one. They're the exact same thing as the police ones. But with gas masks that fit, you kind of need a mask that has the filter at the bottom, because side-loading filters for the most part are going to block the action of the helmet. Oh, this is the bit where you're not meant to walk on the sand, but there's a really easy way of doing this, right? And it's called sprinting. Because this is one of the funny things, is people are like, oh, this mission's so hard where you're not meant to jump on the sand, land on the sand. And I know it's kind of like, you know, might take the fun out of it a bit, but watch this. All you have to do is, I know some of them will come from in front and things like that. You can just literally do it all by jumping. And then we'll get to a thumper, and we'll turn the thumper on. And then that will protect us from the antlions for a bit. If I can remember where the thumpers are, I think closer to the shore. Oh, if anybody finds it interesting, the thumpers in this are taken from Dune, but they do the opposite thing. Rather than attracting the worms, they're designed in this to, you know, keep the antlions back. But also the Combine Advisors in Half-Life 2 were based off of the David Lynch version of the Third Stage Guild Navigator, which I find quite interesting. Because I'm sure a lot of you know the David Lynch Dune film that everybody hates I actually really like, but I'll have to turn it on in that house where the generator is. Okay, there we go. Half-Life 2, as in the title of the stream should be Half-Life 2. Oh look, and we're, see, that was hard, wasn't it? Just sprinting through that area where everybody said it's too difficult, unfair, boring game. Yeah, have you seen, like, the, there's, like, quite a well-done fan cut of it, where they got all the deleted scenes, and they kind of tried to put it together and make the most sense, where they, you know, like, tried to make it as close to the book as possible, and, like, what Lynch tried to make. Not the TV cut that's meant to be quite bad, but I think at one point it was on Vimeo. I can't remember what they called it. It might have been like Guild Navigator Edition or something they called it, but it's definitely worth a watch. It makes more sense and is closer to the book than the theatrical release of the Lynch film. But, yeah. I mean, it's just a real shame with Dune that they, you know, took David Lynch's ability to cut it at the end, because the studio just really screwed him over with it. And then everybody blamed him for, you know, like, missing big bits out, but it was because the studio said, oh, yeah, although we gave you, you know, all the money and everything to do this project, and we wanted you to direct it, we've now decided that we don't want you to edit the film, and it has to be under 2 hours long. And then he eventually negotiated it to be 2 hours and, like, 15 minutes, I think the actual full-length version of Dune is. But, yeah, the issue was that obviously the studio wanted like an hour-and-a-half film, and I think David Lynch originally wanted it to be like 3 to 4 hours. So yeah, the reason a lot of the complaints people have with the film is literally the studio screwed it over because they didn't really understand it. They just wanted, you know, it to be a big cash cow thing. I think the studio as well, Universal, kind of thought it was going to be Star Wars because they didn't really get what Dune was about. I think a lot of modern people get Dune a lot more if they kind of think of it like Game of Thrones in space. I think HBO would be the best people to kind of do a TV series of Dune. Yeah, I have pets. I have 2 rabbits and a budgie and a fish. I volunteer for the Blue Cross as well once a week, so I was there earlier. So that's like lots of cats and dogs and things, and rabbits and guinea pigs and everything else. At the moment we've got a continental giant rabbit in, which is absolutely huge, bigger than a lot of dogs are. See ya. Weird thing is, I don't even know who Shearburn or whatever that is, but obviously that person's being a dickhead, so bye. It's the pheromone pod.
The Freeman honors us by his presence. Follow Freeman. The Freeman will now be instructed in the use of pheromones. Attend now and learn to shepherd ant lions with the so-called bug bait.
Bug bait.
The Freeman will now
The next bit's really good, where you actually use the ant lions to get through like the D-Day kind of beach defense system.
The Freeman must not delay. Hurl that pteropod into the pit. The Freeman has done well.
No, I don't have any Lego gas masks. I've only actually seen Save It Private Ryan fully once, ages ago. I mean, it's a right film. I think that most people like it for the D-Day landing scene at the beginning, and then the kind of the rest of the film's forgettable. I like Band of Brothers, though. I'm trying to... what was I meant to be doing with the bug bait? I wasn't listening because I was reading a comment. Was I just meant to be going to the gate? Oh yeah, I like... you mean like the old one with Ringo Starr, when Ringo Starr narrates it. I rewatched all of Captain Scarlet recently, actually. So what am I actually meant to be doing, because I've not been listening to what he said. Right, what? Right, repeat that for me again. Go on.
Hurl your bug bait hard against the dummy.
Against the what? Do I need to put subtitles on now? Oh, right, I had to throw at the Combine Soldier again, okay, even though you'd already told me to do that. Is that Steamboat Willie, the Nazi that stabs the guy? No, I haven't seen the thing called The Americans. Yeah, I've not actually seen the Beast of War fully, but the interesting thing is in that I think they've got an SHM-41 mask that they've stuck a British Mark IV or Mark V gas mask exhale valve cover on the front to make it look like a Soviet MM1 gas mask.
And now this one must bid the free man farewell. Nova Prospect lies just beyond. Remember well what you have learned here. The Eli Vance has greatest confidence in you.
Yeah, that's the thing, Mike, is Captain Scarlet, like, this is the thing, I was rewatching it recently, I was like, how the hell did they give this a U rating? Because in the UK, for people who don't know, U rating is suitable for everybody. It's like the lowest possible age rating you can give a film, or like game, or, you know, like whatever. Well, I think there's one that's like U something else, which is like specifically for children, but they rarely use that one. So you get like U, PG, then 12, 15, and they have 12A as well, and 18. But yeah, Captain Scarlet is U, which means, like, you know, it's suitable for little kids, and there's bits where the puppet's set on fire while screaming. It's all about terrorism and murder. I mean, it's great. I mean, if you showed kids stuff like that today, I think kids would actually grow up, you know, not being so, like, sensitive about everything and whatever else. Oh, they're on my side, aren't they, the antlions now? Oops. But yeah, you know. I'm trying to think what my favourite episode of Captain Scarlet is now. I like the one that's the trap, where they crash the plane and they replicate the like Air Force guys on the plane, and then they're in the castle and they're going to assassinate the chiefs of the World Air Forces in the castle. I don't have much plans for the weekend other than getting more videos filmed. Yeah, I need to get more videos filmed. I'll probably, hopefully do a stream at some point. It's Mother's Day on Sunday, isn't it? So I need to remember to give my mum the Mother's Day stuff I bought for her, because that would be awkward if I didn't do that. But other than that, I don't really have any plans for the weekend as far as I can remember. Which is the US state with the best gun laws? They could banish me there. Although, climate-wise, I think somewhere like Maine is where I'd get on with the most. I haven't actually seen the Captain Scarlet comics. what I've got, I bought actually was the Haynes manual. There's a Haynes manual of all the Captain Scarlet vehicles, and I bought that not too long ago because I had a W.H. Smith voucher I was given for my birthday. None of the W.H. Smiths near us actually exist anymore, I have anything good in them, but I found that I could redeem the card on their website, and so they had a lot more choice. I was like, oh cool, a Captain Scarlet Haynes manual. I might rewatch all the Thunderbirds again, actually. Fairly soon. As soon as I rewatch all Captain Scarlet. And Stingray, I could watch all that. I haven't actually watched Joe 90. I think, was it the Secret Service? Was the other one Jerry Anderson did? Yeah, I'm still happily retired for now, thanks to people who support me on Patreon and YouTube stuff, but if I need to get a part-time job as well as doing YouTube stuff, I'll do that. Otherwise, I'll, you know, just keep doing this. Yeah, so saying I only like the puppet ones. The CGI ones I have absolutely no interest in whatsoever. But I really like good old practical effects. I'm meant to be going down the lower bit, aren't I? You know, like I love scale models and things like that, and all like the things where obviously people put a lot of effort into models and then blew them up. What I want to read at the moment is, if people are familiar with Stephen King's Dark Tower series, The Gunslinger, the first one, is my favourite book in that series. And there's an original version of it, like the non-revised edition. I really want to get hold of one of those, but I don't know how easy that would be. Because I've only like read the revised edition, which personally, you know, I don't like. It's a bit like how George Lucas changed the Star Wars films. You know, so I want to try and see if I can find an original version of The Gunslinger, read that, but, like, that might be a bit difficult. Yeah, exactly, the CGI stuff isn't the same. I mean, I like CGI fine in movies when they do it well and you can't really tell it's CGI, but I really like films and, like, shows and everything with good old practical effects where they built models or they built puppets or animatronics. I haven't read it, no, I've read a few Stephen King things, but, so I read all the Dark Tower books. That was probably like the most Stephen King stuff I read. I've read The Shining. What other Stephen King? I think I read The Tommyknockers, which is a bit crap, in my opinion. I'm trying to think what else. I've read more Stephen King than that. I quite like some of his short story sort of ones, I think, more than some of his bigger books. No, I don't have any books specifically on gas masks. I have lots of military kind of books. I mean, other than the instruction manuals that come as the masks. I've got lots of military books that go into respirators and stuff, and like chemical warfare, but not one specifically about masks for the entire books. I have read some books from the libraries as well, like, you know, all like chemical warfare history books, where they go through all the like gases in order, and, you know, like develop some chemical weapons and stuff like that. Yeah, I've seen all the Wallace and Gromit ones. Well, I don't think I've seen... I think they did a couple of newer Wallace and Gromit things, didn't they? But I've seen all the old ones, like The Wrong Trousers, and the Were-Rabbit film, or whatever it was. Yeah, I like Wallace and Gromit. Like, I like all that sort of stuff. All, like, you know, the really well-done animated, or stop-motion, or, like, you know, puppet stuff or what. Like somebody was saying earlier, I really like the old Thomas the Tank Engine, where Ringo started in narration. Just because, you know, like, all the effort they went to do those trains. And again, now, Thomas the Tank Engine is CGI, and I have absolutely... I mean, it's kind of a children's thing, so I don't really have too much of an interest, you know, in it, you know, as a kind of thing now, but I still like to watch now and again, like, the old Thomas the Tank Engine ones, because, you know, they were really well done. I think it's just, you know, that's what makes me sad of a lot of this, is how much effort they used to put into a lot of this stuff, and, you know, that's just not there anymore. You'll probably know this, Mike. Didn't he do, like, a 4.5 book in the Dark Tower series called, like, Wind Through the Keyhole or something? I've not read that either. The problem I have with the Dark Tower series is I kind of think Stephen King padded it out a bit too much as it got near the end, so he could try and, I guess, get more sales, or... Because I don't think he kind of originally had planned it all through, had he? It was kind of, it became so popular, and then people kept saying they wanted more of it. But yeah, it's like saying, I like the Gunslinger the most, just because I think it's quite short and effective. I think I like Wizard and Glass was the other one. That's like the prequel one, isn't it, for a lot of it? I did watch Stephen King's The Stand recently, actually, which is kind of related to The Dark Tower. But, when you say radiation hazmat suits, I've done lots of videos on NBC suits, which are pretty much the same thing. I know that there's like the really cheap radiation sort of papery suits, but they're kind of just dust suits. There's no suits that actually fully block radiation, because gamma radiation can penetrate, you know, like anything except for lead and thick concrete. I haven't actually read the book of The Stand. I watched, the series, but I think my issue is I'm quite bad at actually, you know, getting my head down and reading books as much as I'd like to do it more. It's one of those things where I always end up finding something else to do. I have to be in like the right mindset to read a book. I have that issue where I'll often start reading a book and I'll be going, like, actually reading more and more of it, but then not being able to remember what I've read. You know, like where you're kind of skim reading it, but your brain's not picking it up because I kind of defocus out of reading a book, I guess. So that's like an issue I sometimes have with reading, which is why I don't do as much reading as I used to do. I'm ending the stream when I get into Nova Prospect, which isn't too far away now. Oh, nearly broke my legs. I could look into doing a video on that. I've got some decontamination powder, actually, that came with my FM12, and I didn't even realise until I found it in, like, a hidden pocket the other day inside the carrier. But yeah, I could do stuff on that, but, like, I'm not an expert on it. From what I understand of decontamination, it's pretty much stripped down and get hosed off, and it's one of those things where you really don't want to screw it up. I can't really do a video on gas grenades and smoke grenades, because you can't legally get them in the UK. I mean, obviously, it's where they just put loads of gas in a grenade. But yeah, it's like one of those things where I can't easily do anything on it. That's interesting, yeah, I'd imagine they would have simplified a lot of stuff and cut it down, but it's weird that they combine sort of characters. Like I said, I really want to just find and read the original version of The Gunslinger, because I kind of want to see what it was like when he wrote it as a standalone book, and it wasn't meant to tie into anything. A book I read recently, and I'd actually really recommend, is the book, it's called, I think it was just called Rapture, but it's the, like, prequel book to Bioshock that they had licensed a few years after Bioshock was made. And it's written by, like, a proper author. It's not, like, you know, a really crappy book. It's actually a really good book, but, and it's all about, you know, like the timeline of building Rapture and then how everything went wrong. And it's a really good book, and it combines the stuff from Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2 really well. So it's definitely worth a read. I think it's John Shirley who wrote it. But yeah, as I was saying, it's a really good book. I was surprised how good it was, but I saw a load of people talking about it when I was reading people, you know, discussing Bioshock, and I was like, replayed it all again. And then, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by how good the book was. So I have a problem where I can get very funny about trying to read books, you know, how the writing style is and all stuff like that. There's lots of books I'd love to read, but they can't keep my attention. But that was one that, you know, I found really easy, just to keep reading and rereading and all that sort of stuff. No, I've not seen the video on the real rebar crossbow. Is that where somebody's made, like, this crossbow from the game, but in, like, real life? Right, I shouldn't have run that far ahead, I guess. This is the bit of the gunship. I know this is one of the bits really not very fun at all to play on hard, because the gunship's really hard to kill. Right, is there anywhere I can actually shelter from it for the moment? Oh, I'm dead. I don't really have any interest in QBs, to be honest, so I don't really look up much about them. There's no way they're going to be able to regulate kitchen knives. I mean, you already have to be 18 to buy them. They're not going to actually manage with kitchen knives, I think, to, you know, make the law much worse with in regards to them. Like, I've been complaining, and a lot of other people have, about the new knife laws they want to try and bring in. They're really stupid, because kitchen knives are one of the bits that are exempt from them, despite the fact that kitchen knives are the ones that use the majority of stabbings, because they're really cheap and, you know, easy to get for people who want to use a knife for stabbing. They don't, you know, go out and buy a fancy hunting knife if you're going to stab someone. You use a cheap disposable knife so you can try and dispose of it afterwards. I don't know what Saturn View is from 2004. Is that a game or a film or like a vehicle or something? Your Kevlar vest might stop a knife, it depends. Depends what type of, if it's got a stab layer in it, what type of knife it is, how hard the knife's, you know, shoved into the vest. If you didn't see Weapon Collector's videos he did recently where he was testing his stab-through panel of the crossbows, that was quite interesting because he finally managed to get through it with the broadhead test on that, where, so before that he hadn't got through it with anything. This is a bit where when I was playing it on hard, when I replayed all the game on hard a while ago, this is the bit that really annoyed me, because it's kind of just, like, this is where I think Half-Life 2 is quite badly balanced, the bits where you have to just keep fighting the striders and the vehicles. Right, let me try and move up at the moment. Now there's a health station in there. If that door opens, I guess I can use that to heal. Yeah, out my way, Ant-Lines. Right, okay, so I can use some of the stuff here to fight the helicopter, I guess. Let's see, can I get the guy in there? I'll do a quick save here. You'll find that Kevlar's still surprisingly good at stopping knives. I mean, yeah, obviously, like you're saying, it's not designed to stop knives, but it takes actually a lot of the force out of the knife blade. What UK police wear in the UK, and I've got one of these vests, they're really good, is it's Kevlar and they put chainmail in the front, because the chainmail will basically stop a knife blade for the most part, and the Kevlar does a good enough job of being behind that. I mean, yeah, stab-proof vests are different than regular Kevlar vests, but they're actually quite similar. Were you trying to get a Darwin Award when you did that, if you stabbed yourself while wearing a leather jacket? Because that's a good way of getting a Darwin Award. The AR-2, because this is like the coolest gun in the series. Regarding knives, there's that video that Red Letter Media watched, and you can find the whole thing on YouTube that's quite interesting. I can't remember, it's called like I can't remember if it's called Surviving Knives, but it was a US police training film about like what to do if you're attacked with a knife, and it's all about like distances you have to pull your gun out, and you know all the things you should and shouldn't do. And that's got some really interesting information about like knife survival in it. But they were actually mentioning in there as well that, you know, police officers with Kevlar vests on had a much higher survival chance against knives because the vests often fully stop or partially stop a bladed weapon. You know, unlike, see, and this is the bit I really hate, just because fighting two gunships at once in this game is not fun. Like I was saying, Half-Life 2 is not a perfect game. This is one of the bits where you kind of realise how tedious some of it is. And I said last time I did this bit it was on hard, and I think it took me literally like an hour of just save scumming this bit to do it. Because here's the issue, I need to get more rockets, and I think the rocket chest is up there, but everything shoots at you before you even get close to it. Right, let's see if I can get into that room at least for now. Okay, let's do a save scum. Okay, now use the RPG. Can I get a good shot on either of those gunships? No. How am I meant to do a gas chamber test like the US Army does, considering they use CS gas? I think I've got to the stage now where I'm not even trying, just because this bit's becoming so stupidly tedious. Right, tell you what, I don't want to cheat on this thing because I want to do it properly, but I've completed this game enough times. Right, let's just do it the stupid way, shall we? Oh, does they not hurt the thing? Right. Right, let's turn cheats back off. But yeah, like this is what I was saying with Half-Life 2, is it's a really damn good game. Like I said, I've completed it before on hard, but it's not a perfect game. And I think where Half-Life 2 fails is when it actually tries too hard to be kind of an action-y shooter game. I know that might sound silly, but, you know, that's kind of I think, you know, the big problem with it. But the best bits, I think, are the early chapters, where it's kind of a mixed bag. Because you'll notice in episode 2, which everybody likes, they didn't try and do anything like that. There's a Strider battle at the end, but you have the things which, you know, can, like, kill them in one hit. And you also get, like, lots of health packs that are spread out, where in this bit it's just like, oh, there's 2 gunships flying everywhere, can hit you from, like, any angle. You've got limited health, I hope you don't get hit too hard. Alright, I'm into Nova Prospect now, aren't I? So this is probably where I'll stop the stream. Alright, let's save here, although I'll just start the chapter from the beginning when I next do a bit. I think the game's frozen. I should click save, there we go. Yeah, it says Nova Prospect there. So I don't know when I'll next be doing a stream. At the weekend, if I do a stream, it'll probably run those Q&A streams. People always seem to like to ask me questions in those streams, but like I said, we're getting to the stage now in Half-Life 2 where it's not the good stuff anymore. Does this quit to the menu, or does it just quit to the desktop? It quits to the desktop. Right then, you've now got an infinite thing you're looking at. I'll be finishing this roughly here, but yeah, basically, Half-Life 2 I think is kind of really good up until the Nova Prospect bit. Then it's kind of, I think some of Anti-Citizen 1 and Follow Freeman are good, but when Half-Life 2 tries too much to be a shooter, that's kind of where it fails. I know that sounds weird, because it's a first-person shooter, and a lot of people say it's the best first-person shooter ever made. However, you know, I really don't think it is that good when it tries to be a shooter. That probably sounds really stupid, but if you can understand what I'm getting at with that, it's basically that I think Half-Life 2 works best when it's kind of a hybrid of a shooter and an exploration game and a bit of a puzzle game. And it's when you keep getting the set-piece battles where it's like, oh, keep picking up RPGs and shooting Striders over and over and gunships over and over. That's where the game sort of, you know, starts to not be so great. Like I said, Half-Life 2 is a really good game, don't get me wrong, but it's not perfect. And, you know, I find it annoying where you get the fanboys on one side saying it's the best game ever made, nothing will ever top it, all that sort of stuff. And then you get, you know, the people who are like, oh, it's a crap game, it's really bad AI and all that. And it's neither of those things. It's a really good game, but, you know, it'd be nice if games move forwards. But sadly, as I've ranted about lots of times, games, you know, I think in the mid-2000s were kind of the golden era of games. And then after that, they started going downhill because of all the loot boxes and that. No, I haven't got System Shock installed. They're meant to be doing a remake of System Shock, aren't they? That's kind of interesting to me, but System Shock 2 I just find too clunky and horrible to play. Like, I like System Shock 2, kind of, but hard to get into. Like I said, I like Deus Ex, and that's about as clunky as I can get before, yeah, exactly, pay to win. It's all this sort of stuff where games have now become such a big business, they're not fun anymore. And what I'd have liked is, you know, games to keep getting better graphically, keep refining the gameplay till we got to, like, the perfect, you know, style of game, but sadly, we never really did, because games got to the stage where they were brilliant, like Half-Life 2. Nearly perfect, not quite. And then we went backwards because it became all about the money. Too much focus on the money, I think, and not about making a really cool game, and also just staying afloat by making great games. Banana, there you go. Yep. If you haven't seen Halloween 3, watch Halloween 3, because that's what it's based on. Cheese diapers. You want me to say gallop? Cheese diapers. Like cheese dippers, but it's actually a nappy. Exactly, about protesting with your wallet. I've not bought many recent games at all. I just like playing the older ones. And if I play or, you know, buy or play new games, they're kind of more the indie games, I think. Yeah, exactly, there's plenty of good games out there, you know, but it's finding them and not supporting developers that do really crappy things. Max Payne 2 is really good. Max Payne 1's great as well. I didn't like Max Payne 3 as much. I think Max Payne 2 is the best because I think the gameplay, you know, is blended really well and the difficulty curve was great. Because that's like one of the things I don't like in games, when the levels are really inconsistent. Like, you have a really hard level and you have a really easy level, and I think Max Payne 1 kind of got a bit like that near the end as well. I had a great time when I went on holiday to Poland. It's not boring at all. I went to Warsaw, Gdansk, Krakow, went a few other places. I think Poznan was one of them. But it's mostly just looking at the really old stuff. I mean, the stuff that survived the war, because obviously a lot of Poland was just demolished in the Second World War, sadly. Went to that castle that's near Gdansk, you know, the world's biggest castle. They've got that in Poland. But yeah, anyway, I'll probably be finishing the stream about now, because, yeah, it's been going on nearly 2 hours now. But I hope you enjoyed Half-Life 2. Like I said, I mostly enjoy Half-Life 2. I really enjoy Half-Life 2 until you get to that bit with the gunships and all the bits of the Strider battles near the end. But overall, it is a really good game. But, you know. But yeah, so I'll probably try and do another stream at the weekend, I guess. But that might be more of a Q&A stream, I guess. But, yeah, I'll definitely do more video game streams. And I'll probably do a bit more of Half-Life 2. But like I said, I'm past my favourite parts of Half-Life 2 now. So, anyway, right, see you all.